Hi, welcome to AIM TV, and tonight we have a special guest, Joe Quiroga, who works with American Indian Health and Services. And I want to thank Joe for coming on the show. And Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, my name is Joe Quiroga. I am a native to Santa Barbara and have been working with American Health Services since August of 2000, off and on, and it's become more than just a job. It's become more a passion for me for working there and servicing the Native community for their health and well-being.
So when you say you're a native of Santa Barbara, what nation are you from?
I'm Yaqui.
You're Yaqui?
Yes, it is in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, right on. And I know that your grandmother has played a huge role in our community. I remember meeting your grandmother when I was, my God, in elementary school. She's always been a community leader in several different areas with migrant education, with Native American community. Can you tell me a little, or tell the viewers a little bit who your grandmother is?
Yes, my grandmother. She's been my biggest cheerleader and my biggest to me, icon in this community. She actually was the reason why I decided to get a political science degree at UCSB, because her involvement in the Indian movement and the Chicano movement. About 40 years ago, she was the first individual to go to the state and get the check that granted the funds to open the first Native American clinic here in Santa Barbara. And she helped establish other organizations like Casa de la Raza, and she was really good friends with Cesar Chavez. And she's just an advocate for the health and well-being for everybody, any ethnicity really. So she's my grandmother.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. She's always been a very special person in my life, and one thing that always stands so up in my mind is what a positive person she has and always been, and just always contributing to people, thinking positive, but also kind of having the attitude of nothing can stand in your way. You can accomplish whatever you need to accomplish with just thinking it through and then moving forward. I just have the utmost respect for your grandmother.
Thank you, and so do I. That belief, her beliefs funnel through my veins, my family. She doesn't believe in any barriers, so she's a very outspoken and very, like I said, activist individual here in Santa Barbara. And in her mid-80s, she continues to be that way.
Right on, that's
so,
right.
Yeah, so rock on, ground cracker.
Yeah, that's right. And your Aunt Sylvia, too, is another one of my favorite people as well. Yes,
my Aunt Sylvia. She was the reason why I actually got into American Indian Health Services. She started working there before me, and she recruited me to work there at American Health Services, and I became a community health representative in 2000, and she worked in the medical clinic. So another big advocate in this community, so as some people know.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your position. What are you doing right now at American Indian Health and Services?
Right now I am what's called a patient advocate. So right now I facilitate the needs of our Native patients to make sure that they come in and get their diabetes check. If it's a woman, to make sure that they get all their well women checks. And that's what I do there. It's basically looking out for the grants that we get from the state. So it's a hard job, actually.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it is. Can you give us a little bit of background? I know you mentioned your grandmother's role in how American Indian Health and Services got started. Can you give us a little bit more background on how it began here in Santa Barbara?
Well, I know it started from a group of the Chumash group here, and the Coastal Band here, who wanted to see Native American services other than what's up in the reservation up there established here in Santa Barbara. So they formed, and my grandmother was a part. She's Yaqui, but she was a part of that group, that advocate group, who and it was first started on State Street, from what I understand. Then it relocated to Milpas, and then American Health Services is the third resurrection of the Native American services here, and hopefully we'll be here for a long time.
Oh yeah, and I think some of our viewers need to understand the logistics, is that yes, there is a tribal clinic on San Ynez, which is about 45 minutes away, but then there's nothing from Santa Barbara to LA. And even LA services, I don't know if they're still continuing on, but I think there is an American Indian Health Services.
There's the there's another Indian Services in downtown LA, which is kind of a stretch for some people to get to.
Absolutely.
I mean, the traffic alone to get there.
Right.
So we actually do have some Native Americans who come from the LA County area seeking services at our facility.
Okay.
And we are servicing those Native Americans.
So what are some of the services that American Indian Health and Services provides?
We provide medical services, we provide behavioral health services, we provide outreach services, is what I do. And just recently, the beginning of last year, we actually opened up our own dental clinic. So right now we are offering dental services.
Okay.
So
sometimes non-Native people have a really difficult time understanding why we have to have an Indian health clinic. Why do Native people need to have that clinic as opposed to going to a non-Native clinic, like let's say Samson or one of these neighborhood community clinics? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, aside from the fact, from what I always, it's just called reciprocity. You know, it's just something, and a lot of Native Americans, we as a Native American clinic, we know the needs and what's going on in the Native community. We know that diabetes is high in the Native American community. We know that STDs rates are high, domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse are high. So we specialize somewhat in those programs there because those are what's high in our community, and that's why we want to get the word out, and that's why people affiliate who come to the clinic and seek those services, as opposed to going to Sansom or going to Cottage, hospital here locally. So, but we're sensitive to those subjects.
Okay, I also know for myself going to Samson, they don't tend to be very culturally sensitive to what we need as Native people. Like for example, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the diet that we've been introduced to in the past 100 years is not culturally significant. It doesn't work with our body structure or our physiological needs as Native people, and we are diverse as Native people. I mean, you're Yaqui, I'm Oglala Lakota, and then here we are in Chumash territory. So even though we are all very diverse, the food bank or the provisions that are offered in that kind of situation don't work with our psychological or physiological makeup. So can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Well, first, it's always good to have the food bank. Let's give
course.
kudos to the food
Absolutely,
bank because
yeah.
it's, food is kind of a stretch for some families.
Absolutely.
We understand that. What would be unique about our clinic and about our providers is that if you came to our clinic and you want to discuss, about fish, which most Chumash, people here, coastal people, that was on their diet, as opposed to frying the fish, we can say, well, how about broiling it or baking it? Educating our Native American patients on a better way of healthy eating, what ingredients is to use, something that we know that, you've been introduced to lard and oil. What are the alternatives to eating that fish healthier? They can get that from our providers. So.
Actually, I heard a friend of mine speak, and one of the things that they were saying was, and his name is escaping me right now, but one of the things that he was saying is that if Native people went back to their traditional foods, they would be so much more healthier, because flour was not a traditional food for us. Beef was not, milk is not traditional. So many things that were introduced to us and that we find at the food bank are one of the reasons why we have high obesity rates, diabetes, even health, like heart risks. And it's interesting that a lot of these clinics or a lot of these medical providers are not culturally sensitive or educated on that level. So what does American Indian Health Services do to re-educate our own people of going back to what their traditional means are?
It's a tough question. Actually, a lot of our providers, like I said, go back to what was used back in the days. It's even them themselves, the providers, educating themselves on what is necessarily healthy for the patient. And water, the water is best thing. That's something that as Native Americans, it was just a resource that was naturally handed to us by nature. But who would have thought now in this day and age we'd be spending $3 on a bottle of water? No Native American back in 100 years ago could ever fathom that.
Absolutely.
But still can't fathom that. But our medical providers, drink enough water, educate the patients on that. Those are some of the things that they try and coach. It's more of a counseling session with the Native American patient. So.
No, that's great. So what is, What is, I know that American Indian Health and Services is not just open to Native people, but it's open to the entire community.
Yes, we service non-natives as well. It is American Health Services. We do have a good population of Native Americans, but our biggest population are non-natives. Some programs are specific only for our Native American patients. It just has to do with funding, which I'm not too clear about. But and as a medical facility, we do have to keep our doors open medically for all patients.
And over the years, I've noticed you have, or the clinic has had a variety of different kind of classes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we've had diabetes classes. We've had, we're having youth programs now. We've introduced some nutritional classes. We've had classes on your feet, your eyes, your dental classes. One class that just happened last year that was very successful and hopefully will be coming back is the Women of Tradition classes for Native American women. We hosted it, and I want to say about 20 Native American women participated, and we're just ecstatic about the results. And hopefully we get more classes in. So
tell me why you've decided to create a youth component to this.
That's a really good question, and it's actually something that at the end of last year we took a look at our programs, and we've been very successful with our elder programs. As you know, elders are very faithful and loyal to programs that are good to them. So we were able to bring those elders back into our programs. We've found a disconnect with the youth here because the youth are still with their families, and we've noticed that a lot of families have moved out of Santa Barbara for whatever economical reasons. And so Native youth here has been dwindling. So it's been kind of a struggle, but we want to link up our youth program with our elder program, bring some of those traditionals back, because you don't learn them, on your own. You have to learn them from the elder. So we're hoping if we reestablish our youth programs, because we had them back in the back of the days when Indian Health was, in its earlier stages of life. So that's our biggest goal, is to establish a hardcore youth program and linking up with our elder program, because the youth are going to be in the elder's position hopefully someday.
Absolutely.
So,
elders in training, right?
Exactly.
What are some of the challenges in working with youth, though? I mean, that's a pretty challenging. I mean, what age group are you targeting or working with the most? Right
now, we're targeting between 10 and 18 years old, but we do look below that and we do look above that, the 18 years old. And some, not to put some of the companies out there on blast, but video games are a big
brain rot.
Exactly, a big challenge, and a lot of it is getting actually the parents involved and letting them know, hey, we're having a flute playing class. That's one of the programs that we had last year that was very successful, and hopefully we'll get those going again. Learning how to play the flute and educating them on the flute and what tribes use the flute, and how to make your own flute, and just getting the parents. You first have to tell the parent, get them engaged so they get their child engaged and bring them both in. That's been the biggest challenge so far. Right. So, but we are having some successful stories.
Excellent. So, in fact, there was at the last event that I went to with your organization, there was a fabulous film that was shown regarding one of my heroes, and his family was there. And I just thought it was fabulous that American Indian Health and Services had been involved in the creation of this film. And can you tell the viewers what this was about? Because it was just beautiful. In fact, I wish we could show it here tonight.
Yes, well, maybe we can do that in the future. If we get consent from the family, we can call them. But we actually took, what it was is we have a Native American community member here who has a very rare skin disease, and he's also a family member here. He's Chumash, related to the most people here in Chumash group, and we actually have an individual who works at our clinic who is a photographer and a filmer. So he took a very good liking to this individual, saw what a good spirit this person was, and decided to do an 8-minute documentary on him. And it was so moving and so compelling. We got some, a big turnout. We had a premiere for him. It was actually very special. And so hopefully we actually will be able to show that in a couple weeks. Yeah.
In fact, he was not expected to live this long.
No. He wasn't. He actually mentions in the documentary how he went against all the odds, and so it will bring tears to your eyes.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And in fact, when it was shown,